Alex Chauvancy accompanies me on today's episode of Locked On Devils as we hear some of his thoughts after the New Jersey Devils suffered the Game 1 loss to the New York Rangers. And we're also going to talk some pregame stuff. Can the New Jersey Devils rebound and try to even up the series before they head into Madison Square Garden? We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils with Alex. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member Trey Matthews. I am joined alongside Devils writer for the Hockey Writers and also the host of Devils on the Rush podcast. He's appeared on this show before, but it's been a while. It's Alex Chauvancy. Alex, how you doing? Rough game one, but we're here to shed some positivity going into game number two.
Yeah, I'm actually doing pretty well despite the game one loss. I wasn't really that surprised that they lost the game. Maybe more in the manner of how they lost, but I thought they were going to be a little nervous going into that game, and it definitely showed in the first period.
Yeah, so in today's episode, I'm obviously going to hear the thoughts of Alex Chauvancy about what his thoughts were after game one, and then we're going to talk about our expectations going into game number two, and basically discuss some other topics as we go. So, Alex, I want to hear your thoughts for game one. You were just surprised in the manner of how they lost. And James Nichols, who is a Devils writer for the fourth period, he confirmed that a lot of players, including like Ryan Graves, Eric Haula, Lindy Ruff, and others, were saying that it was like jitters. It was nerves going into the game. So if you have a few of your players and also your head coach confirming that it was like nervousness and jitters, then I guess that can definitely be an X factor, but that's certainly not an excuse for how they played.
Yeah, it was definitely noticeable in the first period. Right away on that power play, they got like 75 seconds into the game. They were pretty tentative. They didn't really look sure of themselves. And you could tell the nerves of game one was getting to them. And the Rangers, having made the conference final a year ago, they definitely looked like the more experienced team, at least for game one. But I think as the game went on, the Devils settled in, especially at 5-on-5. The power play, different story. It was a disaster the whole night. But at 5-on-5, I thought they got better as the game went on. And by the third period, they were testing Shesterkin a little more. And so I think they had stuff to build on as the game went on. But at that point, the third period, the game was in hand for the Rangers.
Yeah, so obviously the New Jersey Devils, they have gotten so much better at the power play because just like a month ago, they were ranked 18th in the entire league for power play. But then come the end of the year, they're ranked 13th. But I felt as though the first power play, there was a lot of passing, but I liked the execution. It seemed like the New Jersey Devils were keeping the puck in their offensive end. Or let me rephrase that. I like the game planning. The execution was lacking a little bit. But as the power play progressed, obviously they had three more opportunities. It just seemed like it got worse and worse and worse. And at that point, if the Devils got another power play opportunity, you just knew they weren't really going to score or capitalize. But my thing is like, look, I'm okay with like feeling out on the first power play, see what's going to work or what's not going to work. But in the playoffs against a team like the New York Rangers, a team that's gone to the Eastern Conference Finals, like you mentioned, they're not going to give you any sort of breathing room. And I know a lot of people are nervous about Shesterkin, but at the same time, if you're being given that opportunity, you got to try to capitalize on it and you got to shoot it. You can't go on the man advantage 4 times. That's about 8 minutes on that advantage and not get one single shot on them. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, the fact that they went without a shot on goal over 4 power plays is bad. Like, there's no other way to put it. Even the Vegas Golden Knights, a little bit similar against Winnipeg. They were 0 for 3 with like 1 shot on their power play. So I guess it wasn't just the Devils last night. But that's definitely a big adjustment that they have to make going into game 2, because at 5-on-5, they were the better team, especially as the game progressed. They lost the special teams battle, and that was really why they lost the game. I think you could also say Vanacek didn't have his best night, but it was more so the special teams for me that was the issue for the Devils. On the penalty kill too, they didn't do a good job. I think the Rangers actually did a good job of kind of like baiting their penalty kill. It was like Bryce Salvador was talking
Yeah.
about during intermissions or after the game as well. He was Adam Fox was like doing a good job of getting players out of position on the penalty kill. So credit to them in that regard. But they also didn't do what they needed to do, and that was what decided the game in the end.
Yeah, so what I saw, especially on that first power play goal scored by Chris Kreider, I just saw, like you said, I think that's the perfect word to describe it that you and Bryce just alluded to, which was baiting, essentially, which was you just saw that the Rangers, they were looking for that ounce of daylight, and they were able to collapse defense for the New Jersey Devils. And Adam Fox, he is the unsung hero because a lot of people are going to talk about Kreider scoring 2 power play goals. A lot of people are going to talk about Shesterkin just being so good in net. But Adam Fox had 4 assists in last night's matchup. So, he was there every step of the way. But I want to ask you this because I talked to Jersey Joe about this in yesterday's episode. I think you know him. He's a fellow Devils personality. We talked about some potential lineup changes. So my thing is, like, I'd say keep Vitek Vanecek in net. Yes, he didn't have his best performance, but this loss is not on him. And I have more faith in Vitek Vanecek for right now than I do with Akira Schmid. Like, I don't think you need to flip-flop your goalies this early in the series. Like, you're not in a dire must win, but it's a win you would rather have. But digressing a little bit. So keep Vitek Vanecek in net, but a lot of people are pushing for Miles Wood to be scratched. And Jersey Joe and I discussed this yesterday, which was maybe you insert Curtis Lazar, because a lot of people don't know about Curtis Lazar is that I believe he led the Vancouver Canucks in hits before he was dealt away. He was tops on their team in blocks. He was tops on their team for face-off win percentage. And Curtis Lazar, I think he could do everything that I think the Devils are looking at a Miles Wood, just more efficiently. And because Miles Wood, he has a tendency to get a lot of unnecessary penalties. And that's why Brendan Smith is a healthy scratch, because he does the same thing. So what changes to the lineup do you want to see made?
Yeah, so I'm actually writing about this a little bit. It's just kind of like things to look for in game 2. So I'll probably have that early tomorrow morning. But yeah, I think as far as like taking Miles Wood out of the lineup, and that penalty he took that made it, I think it was a 2-0 game, was pretty bad. Like, there was just really no need to take that penalty. He was like, I think he fell on the ice and then he kind of like hooked Adam Fox or whoever it was. You can't take penalties like that against the Rangers in the postseason because they'll make you pay, which they did. But for me, I would take him out of the lineup for Yegor Sharangovich because I think you need another penalty killer in there, and Sharangovich has been one of their top penalty killers this year. You do want the physical aspect in there a little bit, which you're not really going to get with Sharangovich, but that's why you keep Nate Bastian in there. So I would probably roll with the 4th line of Sharangovich, McLeod, and Bastian. That way you get Sharangovich in there to help your penalty kill. Just for Miles Wood, he doesn't play special teams, and if he's going to take penalties like that, he's just more of a detriment instead of being a positive. So I don't really see the point in keeping him in the lineup. So it'll be interesting to see what Ruff decides to do. I guess we probably won't know until the morning skate at the earliest tomorrow morning. So and another change I would make is moving Timo Meyer somewhere into the top 6. I mean, Ruff did that for the 3rd period. I think he had him with Nico Hischier and Dawson Mercer, which I would probably start game 2 like that. You just need him in the top 6 at this point because you need to get to Shesterkin a little early, or not a little. You need to get to him early in the game. You don't want to be chasing against a goalie like him because we saw how difficult it is to come back. So that's another change I would make.
Don't worry, there's still more in store with Alex. But before we continue, I want to tell you about a partner that has a product that I literally use every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted to be happier. I wanted to be healthier. My body's a temple, and I got to start treating it as such. So its lifestyle is friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's one thing that's best about Athletic Greens is that it uses best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with the convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out after your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Okay, let's get back to our discussion with Alex Chauvancy of the Hockey Writers. Take it away. Yeah, so in regard to Timo Meyer being on the top six, I totally agree with you. But something Amanda Stein tweeted out, I believe like a month or two ago, when people were also talking about this, when Timo Meyer was first initially moved down to the third line. She says, like, in terms of like lineup combinations, just because you play on the third line or that's what you're assigned at game time, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to see like the least amount of ice time, or you're going to be one of the players that doesn't get the most ice time. More of an organizational type of thing. And I get where she's coming from, but like you said, we saw Timo Meyer being utilized as the game progressed, and then we saw that fourth line. I believe because Lindy Ruff thought of it as a liability of Wood and McLeod and Bastian being utilized less. I believe in either period number 2 or period number 3, one of those. But we saw them being utilized less at one point. But my thing is, like, for Yegor Sharangovich, he's an interesting case. It's because if you put him on that fourth line, I just don't know if he's going to make the most of it, because he hasn't made the most out of it when he was signed with Hughes or Hischier. Like, look at someone like Dawson Mercer, who was given that chance to play alongside Nico Hischier. Dawson Mercer went on a tear this year. For Yegor Sharangovich, he's too inconsistent. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not there. And the thing is, like you mentioned, he's good on the penalty kill. I'll give him that. But the Devils aren't always on the penalty kill. That's my thing. So you take away his goal scoring ability, he doesn't really provide all that much, which is why I lean towards more Curtis. I did an episode about this like a week or two ago when Devils fans were asking, like, why is Wood playing and Sharangovich is scratch? I said my educated guess is that for Miles Wood, they're looking for grit, determination, someone who could get under the skin of the opponent. And because Miles Wood, he's not going to score that consistently. He's capable of doing so, but that's not his job. But if you take away Miles Wood's goal scoring ability, he can ruffle the feathers of his opponent. But at the time, Curtis Lazar was hurt. Now that Curtis Lazar is back and he played in the final regular season game against the Washington Capitals, I get he hasn't really formed the chemistry because he's been injured for the most part. He's been dealing with a lot of personal matters, including visa, and obviously his wife was going into labor at the time of the trade deadline. My thing is, like, I have more faith in Curtis Lazar, and Curtis Lazar has playoff experience. So that's my thing, which is I think Curtis Lazar should be inserted into the lineup over Yegor Sharangovich.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a case for it because I'm pretty sure Lazar killed penalties in Vancouver too. So you get that aspect with him, and he'll add a bit more well, not a bit more. He'll definitely add more physical presence than Sharangovich. But I thought Sharangovich actually played pretty decently to end the regular season. Even though he didn't score that much, I thought his play off the puck was better than it had been. And you do get the added scoring ups. At least you get some scoring upside with him, even though it didn't really come to fruition this year. So, I mean, you could always try him on the third line with, I guess, Haula and Palat if you're moving Meyer up into the lineup. And then you have Boquist on the fourth line. You could do that. Gives you a little bit more depth, I think, on that fourth line. But I would definitely try to bring him back. My preference would be bringing him in the lineup over Lazar, just because I think he's been with the team longer and he knows the penalty kill, like how they want to play. Lazar really didn't get any reps with the penalty kill, so be interesting to see what the Ruff decides in that respect. But I think you get a little more with Sharangovich than you would with Lazar for sure.
So which players do you think, I know there weren't too many positive takeaways, but which player or players did you think like played somewhat decent or respectable in the game one? Like which players like were just unlucky? So my thing was Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes, because they were there at times, but unfortunately they just got shut down. I saw this in period number 2 for Nico Hischier. He tried everything he could have done, but unfortunately it just wasn't meant to be. He tried setting up Dawson Mercer. He tried setting up Tomas Tatar. I think you tweeted out saying that Nico Hischier was doing everything he could possibly do, but unfortunately it just wasn't meant to be. So I say Nico Hischier, he has to be the MVP for the playoffs for the Devils. And then for Jack Hughes, other than the penalty shot, sometimes he looked hesitant. And I'm just like, shoot the puck, be selfish. I don't care if you don't find the back of the net, shoot it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about Nico and Jack. I even kind of not even I did write about that in my takeaways post this morning. I thought Nico was probably their best player from start to finish. Jack looked a little nervous for sure in the beginning, but as the game went on, he definitely got better. And he was kind of doing some of the things you're used to seeing from him. You know, there was obviously the penalty shot, which was their only goal of the game, but he had a couple of dekes earlier in the game where he got some quality chances on Shesterkin. So I did like his play as the game went on. And Nico, yeah, it didn't. I think it definitely helped that he got a little bit taste of the playoffs as a rookie in 2018 because it didn't really look like he was playing in his first playoff game. It kind of looked like he had remembered the experience, even though it was 5 years ago. So that's definitely a positive, and that's part of the reason why I want to see Timo Meyer with him to start game two with Dawson Mercer. So yeah, I agree with you there. I thought Palat actually had a decent game. You know, he's obviously got a ton of experience, so like that the playoffs don't matter for him. Um, It'll just be interesting to see where Ruff decides to put him for game two, if he's going to stick with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt on the second line, or if he might try put him back with Eric Holla and Jesper Boquist, the combo that really worked in the regular season. But I thought he was pretty decent too. You know, other than that, it's kind of tough to say. I didn't really think anyone on defense stood out. Kevin Ball had a pretty decent game, but nobody really wowed me. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond for game two.
Yeah, so on the defensive side of things, Jersey Joe said like maybe you should consider putting Luke Hughes into the lineup. I was like, no, under no circumstance that should happen unless it is a last resort. But you know, you got to think about like what needs to be done defensively in order for Devils to like step up their game, because the problem is like there have been too many odd man rush situations. There have been too many times where the Devils will let their opponent go off and running. And there's too many times where the New Jersey Devils, they leave their netminders into vulnerable positions. And it's a concern I had going into the playoffs. And unfortunately, the Rangers were able to exploit that. So it's like you're leaving a lot of your players exposed. We know Dougie Hamilton, he's not the best when it comes to defense. However, his offense is definitely fantastic and one of the best on the team. Jonas Siegenthaler, I mean, sometimes he's there for the most part, and sometimes you forget that sometimes he's out there. Same with John Marino, but their job is to not like be all that flashy. Their job is to hold down the end. And then someone like Ryan Graves' impact in my eyes, I think is like really underrated, because he is leading the New Jersey Devils in defensive point shares, which is an estimate of the number of points contributed by a player due to his defense. Ryan Graves is leading it. And then Dougie Hamilton is obviously leading it in terms of defensemen for the New Jersey Devils on the offensive point share. So it's like, how do you find that balance? That's my question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. The thing is, like, with Siegenthaler and Marino, I thought Marino had a rough game. His game score was pretty bad yesterday. You need him to be a little better defensively. Siegenthaler actually, I thought, had a pretty decent game. You know, I thought the Rangers actually, the Devils did a pretty good job of preventing odd man rushes against the Rangers. I didn't really think the Rangers got too many, odd man rushes where I was like, oh, this looks a little bit troublesome. I thought they actually did a good job of that, especially as the game went on and they got into it at 5-on-5. I thought they did a good job of that. I think what you need from your defenseman is to provide a little more offense, and that's where you think about bringing in Luke Hughes. Like, I'm with you. I would not bring him in for game two, but depending how game two looks, like if it's like similar to game one and they lose by a similar score, I think you got to consider it for game three. We saw what he can do. I know the Capitals are not very good, but we saw what he can do against them, and he's definitely a dynamic threat from the back end. You might have to live with some defensive, concerns, but he can definitely provide some more offense on the back end. The thing is, for me, is like I didn't think anyone on defense played bad enough for him to take out of the lineup, and you're not going to go with 11-7 in a playoff game. So he's definitely going to sit for game two, but depending how game two looks, he could be an option for game three.
Yeah, so defense it's there sometimes, but just need to clean it up just a tad bit, especially against the Rangers. So like no room for error. And let me get your thoughts on the goaltending. So obviously Mackenzie Blackwood was scratched, which what I think was the right decision. Kira Schmidt is now the backup for the time being. I expressed my opinion as to why I want Vitek Vanecek back out there, because I don't think the loss is on him. But want to hear your thoughts. Like, do you think the Devils have the goaltending to compete with Shesterkin and net? Obviously, Shesterkin is on a new level, but at the same time, we just need Vitek Vanecek. Just make sure the Rangers don't score more than 2 goals, because the Devils know how to come back and try to win a game. They've done it throughout the course of the year. But at the same time, like if the Devils are down 4-0 like they were last night, your chances of a comeback are pretty much out the window.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you on Vanecek. Like, you have to give him game 2, because once you make the change, you can't really go back. So he's definitely going to start game 2. I didn't think he played a great game. Even Lindy Ruff said, I think it was Ryan Novosinski who asked him during his press conference. He asked Ruff what he thought of Vanecek's game, and Ruff said that Vanecek probably won a couple of those goals back. The second was it? I think it was Tarasenko's goal that opened up the game. Probably want that one back. And then Ryan Lindgren did make a really nice play, but he kind of at the last second lost coverage on the post there and opened up the tiniest of hole for Lindgren to score in. So I think those are the 2 goals he'd probably want back. He's not going to outplay Shesterkin in this series. So that's why you need to get some goals, but he definitely needs to be better than he was last night. Like, you can't give up 1.8 goals above expected and expect to beat the Rangers when Shesterkin's on the other side of it. So he's definitely going to be entering the game 2 with not much rope. If he gives up 1 or 2 bad goals quickly, you have to make the pull and go to Kira Schmidt at that point. But I'm definitely starting him. I saw someone tweeted it this afternoon. I think it was Tyler Blazensky, that Kevin Woodley, who's like a goalie expert, was on NHL Sirius XM radio, and he said that Vanecek looked nervous to start the game, which I agree with. So now that he got the game 1 jitters out of the way with the rest of the team, hopefully he comes out sharper for game 2, and you don't have to worry about this going forward. But definitely starting game 2, and we'll see how he goes. If he plays well, then obviously there's no discussion. But if he has another clunker, I think you definitely have to make the switch.
All right, so last topic, but let's go over some facts. So the Devils are 20-25 all-time in game 1s played for the playoffs. New Jersey's all-time series record when trailing 1-0 in the playoff series is 10-14. And the last time the Devils earned a game 1 victory against the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup playoffs was during the 2005-2006 season via April 22nd, 2006 in a 6-1 victory. The last time the Devils actually played the New York Rangers, like prior to this series, what in the course of the playoffs was the 2011-2012 season, in which the Devils went to the Stanley Cup Finals. New Jersey defeated the Rangers in 6 games, Eastern Conference Finals. So just giving some people some hope for anyone who says this series is over, Devils are going to get swept, whatever the case might be. Don't be so sure. The Devils are actually pretty decent when it comes to bouncing back. And the last time the Devils lost back-to-back games in regulation, you would have to go back to December when they played the Boston Bruins for that 2-game mini series at the Prudential Center. So that's the last time the New Jersey Devils lost back-to-back in regulation. So just giving some hope. So yeah, give me your thoughts going into game 2. I want to hear your predictions. Do you think the New Jersey Devils still have a chance against the Rangers?
Oh yeah, they definitely still have a chance. I mean, you just have to look around the league last night too. Like, all home teams went 0-4 in game 1 last night, and then they went 2-6 overall in game 1. So it's not like the Devils are the only team to lose game 1 on home ice. Like, pretty much everyone else did, except Carolina and I'm guessing Boston. Yeah, right. Boston and Carolina were the only teams that went on home ice in their first game. So definitely not. It's a long series. Like, you can't expect. Obviously, you can be concerned after that game 1 performance, but the series is definitely not over. I predicted Devils in 7, in my preview, so I still sticking with that. I think they're gonna win. I think they will win game 2, and then they probably split game 3s and 4 between the Rangers. So you come back to Newark at 2-2 for game 5. But I think it's good that the young team got the nervousness out of the way game 1. You could tell they shook it off as the game went on. As I've said before, And then I think it's also good that you have Lindy Ruff as your coach in this situation, because he's been doing this forever and he's probably seen everything when it comes to the playoffs. From his time with Buffalo and then a little bit with Dallas too, when Dallas had their 50-win season. I think back in like 2017 or something like that. So he's going to know how to manage this group. He's seen it from young teams to veteran teams. So I think that's definitely a good thing. But I think they're going to come out a lot sharper for game 2. I think they know they have to get off to a fast start, because if they fall behind against Shesterkin, then he could just lock it down for the rest of the game. And then Rangers can play a conservative type of game. They blocked a ton of shots in game 1. You don't want to get stuck with that again. That's what will happen if they fall behind early. So I think they come out sharp. I think they get a couple goals early on, and then we'll see how the rest of the game goes when they're playing with a lead. But I definitely expect a much better performance from them in game 2.
Also, it's worth mentioning that Jack Hughes is trying his best out there. So he logged 22 minutes and 17 seconds time on the ice in game 1, which ranks second in franchise history for most time on the ice in a Devils player's first career Stanley Cup playoff game. So right ahead of him was Paul Martin. Paul Martin spent 25 minutes and 30 seconds on the ice back in 2004. So Jack Hughes is definitely going to try to do what he could possibly do. But my thing is, like, win game 2, so that way you don't lose home ice advantage and you go back into enemy territory, which is you go to Madison Square Garden and you just see what happens there. But I say game 2, Devils will have their jitters, will have their nervousness out the way. And I think the Devils will bounce back because, like I said, I gave the facts, which is Devils all time in game 1s. They're actually, or after losing the first game of a series, they actually have a history of bouncing back. And obviously back in 2012, when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, I think Jersey Joe mentioned this, which was aside from the Stanley Cup Finals, when the New Jersey Devils lost game 1 of a series, they came back and won the series, with the exception of the big one, which was the Stanley Cup Finals. But
yeah,
still, that's beside the point. The Devils know how to bounce back from adversity, and we've seen it throughout the course of the year. So for anyone out there saying that the series is over after one game, it was not a good game. It was not a good outing. It was one of their worst outings in the entire season. But please, let's not just cancel the New Jersey Devils out right now. The people tried canceling the New Jersey Devils before the start of the season, and what happened? So this Devils team has a lot of tricks up their sleeve, and I want people to just be patient. And I think they got game 2. And for any Rangers fans who say I'm delusional or whatever the case might be, I don't know what else to tell you. Go listen to a Rangers. Why are you listening to a Devils podcast? Listen to a Rangers podcast.
Yeah, seriously.
Get off my channel. But anyway, Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Where can my audience find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter for the most part. That's where I post all my articles at AlexC_THW with the Hockey Writers and Infernal Access, which is Todd Cordell's Substack. So I'm right in there. Might have something for him this weekend, but yeah, I got a preview. So I guess sort of a preview for game 2. And then I'll be wrapping up game 2 with some takeaways the following morning.
All right. Thank you, Alex. And like I do to close out every show, fans, continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll see you in the next episode. And hopefully I'm covering a win for the playoffs. Thanks for listening once again.